All right, Clemson Nation, I wanted to make a video about Clemson basketball and the decision that Neff made to bring back Brad Brownell for one more year. I'm going to start off by admitting I don't really pay that much attention to the basketball program, at least ever since Oliver Purnell was the head coach. When he left, I really did have high hopes for Brad Brownell. I was paying a lot more attention to basketball back then, and I knew that Purnell's success was really predicated on the fact that we ran sort of like a gimmicky style of team. Purnell's full court press system reminded me a lot of like Paul Johnson's triple offense at Georgia Tech. Our success was pretty much predicated on the fact that teams didn't really have a lot of time to prepare for such a different type of system. And then once Purnell just eventually got the athletes that he needed, it was effective. And, we were able to compete. We made a couple of tournaments under Oliver Purnell, and it was fun to watch, I'll admit. But you knew that we were peaking, right? We weren't going to become a serious contender for championships in that system. We weren't going to be able to recruit good enough players for that system. And so we needed to make a change. And when Purnell left, I was happy that we got a guy like Brad Brownell. His proven track record at UNC Wilmington and Wright State. He won a few conference championships, went to a few tournaments in his 8 years in those two schools. And so I thought he could bring that success to Clemson, and certainly it seemed like that at the start, right? He started his first year in the NCAA tournament, and honestly, at that point, I was probably no more excited about Clemson basketball than I've ever had been, right? The future seemed to be bright. This guy comes in 1 year, we're in the NCAA tournament. Honestly, it looked like we were going to trend in the right direction, but then the next 6 years were just really bad, and we only made the NIT twice. And our win totals were 16-13. We had a good year at 23 wins, but then 16, 17, and 17. And I'll admit, I started paying less attention to the program during those years. I remember not being excited about our play, not being enthusiastic, and the results just weren't there. At least with the full court press, we had an exciting style of basketball. Now the style of basketball seemed to be boring, and we also weren't having the same type of success. And I definitely remember wanting the AD at the time to fire Brownell. Like, I really, really wanted that. And I was ready to make a move. We needed a new head coach, and I was looking to bring some excitement back into the program so that I could honestly enjoy watching it again. But we didn't fire him. Instead, we just basically put him on the hot seat and said, all right, you have to prove yourself in one more year. And honestly, to Brownell's credit, that's what he did. He delivered. We made the Sweet 16 the following year, and then that got him another 6-year extension until 2024. Now, it seems like we're back in that same spot that we were 2016, 2017. The fan base is really angry at Neff because he didn't fire Brad Brownell after missing the NCAA tournament again. But I'm actually not one of those fans. I actually agree with Neff's decision to bring Brownell back for a final season under his contract, right? This is the final season of his contract. And I agree that, Neff brought him back. And the reason why is that, comparing Brownell's tenure, I like to split it up into two windows. So that first window is 7 years. That second window is 6. And honestly, what I even like to do is get rid of that first year because he's really just operating with all of Brownell's players. And so if we take away that first season where he made the NCAA tournament, let's just break it down into the next 12 years in 2 6-year windows. And his first 6 years were really, really bad. I mean, I just mentioned it. We probably should have fired him. I would have been in favor of firing him. But these last 6 years really haven't been that bad. Historically, we're one of the worst teams in the conference in general. And honestly, we spin towards the bottom in our conference for men's basketball. I really don't believe Clemson fans really, really are dedicated to making a really, really, really good basketball program. I just don't see it. We don't spend enough money. The fan base isn't there. I don't know. We can say what we want, but at the end of the day, we care a lot more as fans about, football and other sports as well, baseball, right? So, if we divide Brownell's tenure in those 2 years, Brownell's first 6, 107 and 87 was his record, 52.8% winning percentage, 1 NCAA tournament appearance, 1 NIT trip. But then the last 6 years were 134 and 74, 61.2% winning percentage. Brownell's done so much better in that second window compared to his first. And truthfully, I do believe we were snubbed from the NCAA tournament this year. Even though we lost to Morehead State in the first round of the NIT, I get it. I don't care about that, at least not for this argument. I think we were snubbed. We were snubbed from this. NC State made the tournament. We beat them 3 times, pretty handily all 3 times as well. So I believe he would have made more tournaments because we should have been a tournament team this year. So in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to fire Brownell after this season, right? This should have been an NCAA tournament season. And I'm making this video after the Morehead State game. I get it. I could have made this video last week before we even played Morehead State. But, I'm making this now. We should have been an NCAA tournament team. And I understand everyone's frustration, but we did go 23-11 this year. We finished 3rd in the ACC, 14-6 conference record, which is the best we've had under Brownell. There's a lot of young talent on this team that will return. And if we had fired Brownell, most of them, if not all of them, just enter the transfer portal. We know how big the transfer portal is in football. Obviously, in basketball, it's just as bad. We're going to lose the head coach. Almost all of them are going to transfer. So if we had fired Brownell, new coach has to come in and completely change the roster. And the only way he's going to do this is through the portal. We're going to have to start from scratch all over again. And I just don't think that's a smart decision because we were actually really, really close this year. We can point to the 4 disastrous losses, and I'll play some highlights: South Carolina, Loyola, Louisville, and Morehead States. Those are inexplicable losses. Brownell deserves the blame for those. He's the head coach. We got to play better under him. We can't lose those 4 games. Morehead State is in the NIT. Those 3 other losses prevented us from making the NCAA tournament. We shouldn't have lost those. Those were 3 inferior teams, and if we don't lose those 3 games, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There would be no need for me to make this video. Brownell's probably going to get another extension having made the tournament this year. But I don't want to focus just on those 4 losses. I like to look at the totality of the season, and overall, it's a good season considering what we had. Our best player, PJ Hall, wasn't 100% at the start of the season. We lost Alamir Dawes and Nick Garner to the transfer portal. Alex Hemingway, Chase Hunter, they missed a lot of games this year. And honestly, we had nothing but inexperience on the bench, a lot of young pieces. And so I think we're close. This isn't that 2016, 2017 that finished 17-16, 6-12 in the ACC. This is a 23-11 team. We finished 14-6 in the ACC. We finished 3rd, and we were snubbed from the NCAA tournament. Right? Who are you going to attract for this job if you fire Brownell after a season like this? Right? What coach wants to be on this type of hot seat where I could have an otherwise really good season and still get the pressure of being fired? Right? Bringing Brownell back for the final year of his contract makes the most sense. It's the right thing to do. And no matter how much Clemson fans disagree with that, I ultimately agree with what Graham Neff decided to do. Right? We're not a bad team. We're on the cusp of being really good. Let Brownell finish out his contract. That's my opinion. I understand most of you probably disagree with it. I really do. I'm not even fully convinced of this argument on my own, and I may be completely wrong. Obviously we'll find out next year, right? Brownell could be really bad next year. The team could be really bad, and obviously he's definitely not going to retain a job after that. I think he's on a 1-year deal right now with Graham Neff. But I think we have a lot of potential next year. Let's see who we lose. We've already lost someone to the transfer portal, but let's see who all we lose. Rumors PJ Hall is going pro. Hunter Tyson's obviously not coming back, but let's see what we got back. Let's give Brownell 1 more year. Hopefully it's a good one, and we'll know for sure after that. All right? Anyways, I want Clemson to be really good at basketball again. I really do. Again, have we ever even been really good at basketball? I would love for us to be more consistent at basketball. And I think, honestly, Brownell just deserves 1 more year. That's my opinion. I know most of you are going to disagree. But anyways, go Tigers.